The Hog That Dare Not Hunt by Day by Scott Odell, Chapter 5. Tyndale's warning about Herbert Belsey I appreciated, but did not need. It was enough to know that Belsey was a searcher hired by the collector of customs to spy out smuggled goods. I lost no time, therefore, in locating Uncle Jack. I found him sitting on a bench in the Hammer and Nail, an inn he often frequented. Since he was talking religion with a sailor from King Henry's ship, the Mary Rose, I did not interrupt him, but waited until the man had taken himself off in a huff, something that usually happened when my uncle talked religion. "Uncle Jack," I said, "I have news about Herbert Belsey." "Belsey? Who? Tell me, Belsey? I never heard the name. Bell, Belcher, Bolton, Bedlam?" "He's the one that followed you around last time, the one we saw rowing around this morning when we moored at the bridge." "Him?" Uncle Jack said quietly. "The one with the pale nose, eh?" "Him," I answered, and told my uncle all that had happened at St. Paul's, of my meeting with William Tyndale at the Three Sons, and how I had learned that Belsey was a searcher. "A searcher is he," said Uncle Jack. "Is he? Bless me, a searcher." "Yes, and hot on our trail." "Have no fear, nephew. Everything's in order. I have paid duties upon black copper for the arsenals, the Almaden mercury, and the 6 casks of Malaga cinnamon. All in order. Copper, mercury, cinnamon, everything." "What of the 50 lengths of Parisian silks? And the crate of 300 oranges? And the barrel of honey? And—" "Taken care of, Tom, taken care of. Assign this time to the Dean of Rochester, the whole lot." The trick of false assignment had always worked for Uncle Jack. In this case, the Dean of Rochester had very special privileges. The oranges, honey, silk, and other commodities would be passed through customs without a fee. Uncle Jack, representing himself as a retainer of the Dean's, would then pick up the goods, cart them away to a nearby storehouse, and there sell them to merchants. My uncle worked on the theory that the higher on the social scale the assignee, nobleman or merchant or clergy, the safer the transaction and the more profitable. Furthermore, Uncle Jack was a dissenter. He dissented against paying taxes, all taxes, whether to king or clergy. He was for those who were against things. He was especially enthusiastic about Martin Luther, though my uncle was not really a religious man. Having much of the pirate in him, born in a town where everyone was either a smuggler or dealt with one, he was against all authority in whatever guise he encountered it. Above all, he liked to turn a profit. It was his real religion. "There's one more thing," I said. "Master Belsey asked me if you could hire him on as a seaman. He's coming down to talk." "Coming to the ship? Here? This requires mountainous gall, eh?" "That's what he said." "Think you he's serious?" "Appears to be." "When does he come?" "Sometime today is my guess." Uncle Jack got to his feet. "Then," he said, "we should leave and hurry along for fear of missing him." "Hurry, eh?" "You haven't forgotten so soon what Tyndale told me about Belsey?" I said as we set out for the ship. "We have a searcher aboard. If he's like the other searchers, we can do more business without him. Pardon me. If he's like the other searchers, we can do more business with him than without him. Business." This was a puzzling remark, and I did not take it seriously. On the contrary, when we reached the ship, I immediately set about removing Luther's pamphlets from the hold. The 200 copies were hidden away in a shipment of French silks. I had wrapped them tightly in a scarf when we left the port of Antwerp, and secreted this package in the center of one of the bales, where it could not be discovered, except if the bale were open and the silk taken out length by length. Customs had passed the shipment without so much as a glance, and had given me a docket in proof of ownership. I thought first of hiring a carter to deliver the bale, but gave up the idea when I realized that the silk would need to be returned once the pamphlets were removed, for it was the more valuable of the two. The package was of a goodly size, yet I managed to hide it under my greatcoat. Following Master Tyndale's advice, I went to see Robert Martin, the bookseller located in Charing Cross, and after an hour or more of friendly haggling, said, "Take it or want it," whereupon he took it. Throughout the journey, coming and going, I watched for Herbert Belsey. I failed to see him among the throng that crowded this busy part of London, but I had strong suspicion that he was somewhere close at hand. In fact, I was wrong. When I returned to the ship, I found him aboard. He and Uncle Jack were standing at the door of the roadhouse talking quite amiably, like old acquaintances. Master Belsey did not recognize me as the young man he had spoken to before. At least, he said nothing to me as I passed him on my way below. After I reached the lower deck, I paused at the foot of the companionway and through the open scuttle above, listened to him speaking. "A day or two ago, I followed in your lee for most of an hour," he said to my uncle, "trying to get up the nerve to approach you." "I failed to notice," Uncle Jack replied. "You have a rather forbidding manner, if I may be so bold," Belsey said, talking in a much softer voice than he had used on me at St. Paul's. "You have the bold presence of a commander of the king's fleet, a presence that does not invite familiarity, I must say." It was true that we were in need of seamen. As a result of the storm off of Gothenburg, 3 of the crew had deserted upon reaching London. Still, I was surprised to hear my uncle say, "I can put you to use forthwith. Your qualifications?" 5 years on my last ship, during which there were 2 voyages to the Indies. Someone was tapping his boot against the deck. It sounded like a noise Uncle Jack would make. "Come aboard before tomorrow eve," my uncle said. "We leave for Deptford to repair some knifling damage to our rig." Knifling. As I listened, there was other conversation, which the noise of a passing ship drowned out. Then I heard the captain's steps cross the deck overhead, and a moment later his boots appeared on the top rung of the companionway. Deciding not to hide the fact that I had overheard his conversation, I stood my ground and spoke as soon as he reached the deck. "Why, sir, did you hire Herbert Belsey?" I asked. Ordinarily, I did not speak to my uncle in this manner, for the sound reason that he would most surely have boxed my ears. But for a reason that will appear later, he did not take offense at my boldness. He stood at the foot of the companionway, looking at me from his great height. "We are in dire need of men," he said. "Not so dire as that," I answered. "We'll have a snooping spy aboard, nosing around, snooping into everything we do." Uncle Jack brushed his beard with the back of his hand. Gazing down at me, his eyes in the light that came from the companionway were sea blue and cold, cold as the sea. "We need him for the rigging," he said. "But then, afterward, we'll have him underfoot for the voyage," I replied. "He cannot get off the ship and walk away once we are at sea." "Perhaps we'll give him a chance to try. A chance, eh?" With these words, my uncle smiled. His lips showed red against his beard. He looked down at me in a kindly fashion, as much as to say, "You are, Tom Barton, quite close of kin. Verily, my dear nephew, the son of my dear brother, yet withal you are somewhat of an heirling." He then walked away, leaving me to ponder his strange words. End of chapter 5.